Hello friends, in this video we are going to learn about Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, who changed the face of Indian national movement, whom we know as father of the nation, as called by Subhash Chandra Bose, and also the Mahatma called by Rabindranath Tagore. So we are going to read about his life first and then other points related to him. First, introduction. Mahatma Gandhi was born on 2nd October 1869. He died on 30th January 1948 at the age of 78 in New Delhi, India. He was born at Porbandar in Kathiawar, Gujarat. He was politically killed. Cause of his death was assassination by Nathuram Godse and his accomplice, about whom we will read in brief. He got his education from University College, London. He is known as prominent figure of Indian independence movement, propounding the philosophy of satyagraha and ahimsa, advocating non-violence and pacifism. His religion was Hinduism, and his full name or other name is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. In Indian politics and national movement, there is one Gandhi era. It starts from 1918 to 1948 till his death. Let us do it in detail. Mahatma Gandhi, by name of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, he was born on October 2nd, 1869 at Porbandar in India, and he died January 30, 1948 in Delhi. He was an Indian lawyer, politician, social activist and writer who became the leader of nationalist movement against the British rule of India. As such, he came to be considered as the father of the nation, father of the country. Gandhi is internationally esteemed for his doctrine of non-violent protest satyagraha to achieve political and social progress. The story of my experiment with truth by Gandhi is his autobiography, and no one can write better about Mahatma Gandhi than he himself. With all other interpretation and studies of his life, it's good to take in his own perspective. In this autobiography, he tells us about his life from childhood to 1921. Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated on 30th January 1948 in the compound of Birla House. Birla Gandhi's house. Now it is basically it is known as Birla House. Right, Gandhi used to stay there often whenever he was in Delhi. Now Gandhi's Smriti is known, a large mansion in New Delhi. His assassin was Nathuram Godse, an advocate of Hindu nationalism, a member of political party, the Hindu Mahasabha, and a former member of Hindu nationalist volunteer organization Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. Godse considered Gandhi to have been too accommodating to Muslims during the partition of India of the previous year. While partition, it had happened in 1947 and Gandhi was assassinated in 1948. So it was Nathuram Godse's view that he was too much accommodating for Muslims. Sometime after 5 p.m., according to witness, Gandhi had reached the top of the steps leading to the raised lawn behind Birla House, where he had been conducting multi-faith prayer meetings every evening. As Gandhi began to walk towards the dais, Godse stepped out from the crowd. Godse stepped out from the crowd flanking Gandhi's path and fired 3 bullets into Gandhi's chest and abdomen at point blank range. Gandhi fell to the ground. He was carried back to his room in Birla House, from which a representative emerged sometime later to announce his death. Godse was captured by members of the crowd, the most widely reported of whom was Herbert Rainier Jr., a vice consul at the American embassy in Delhi, and handed over to the police. The Gandhi murder trial opened in May 1948 in Delhi's historic Red Fort, with Godse the main defendant and his collaborator Narayan Apte and 6 others as the co-defendants. Godse and Apte were sentenced to death on 8 November 1949 and they were hanged in Ambala jail on 15 November 1949. Investigations and arrest in Gandhi's case, along with Nathuram Godse, many other accomplices were arrested. They were all identified as prominent member of the Hindu Mahasabha, an organization active in opposing the Muslim ruler of the princely states of Hyderabad state in Deccan region before the Indian Army forcibly removed the Nizam in Operation Polo in September 1948. Along with Godse and accomplices, police arrested the 65-year-old Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, whom we know as Veer Savarkar, who they accused of being the mastermind behind the plot. Arrested. The accused, their place of residence and occupational background were as follows. The people who were arrested, it is about them: Nathu Ram Vinayak Godse, Pune, Maharashtra, member of Rashtriya Sevak Sangh, editor and journalist. Is about Nathuram, right? It's Miss Nathuram Godse. Nathuram Godse. Then we have Narayan Apte. He was from Pune, Maharashtra, formerly British military service, teacher, newspaper manager. He was. Then Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, Mumbai, Maharashtra, member of Rashtriya Sevak Sangh, author, lawyer, former president of Akhil Bharatiya Hindu Mahasabha. Digambar Badge from Ahmednagar, Maharashtra, weapon merchant. Shankar Kastaya, Pune, Maharashtra, rickshaw puller, domestic worker employed by Digambar, Badge. Then Dattaraya Parchere, he was from Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, medical service caregiver. Vishnu Karkare, Ahmednagar, Maharashtra, orphan, odd job in hotels, musician in a traveling troupe, volunteer in relief efforts to religious riots. Noah Khali, later restaurant owner, he became. Then Madan Lal Pava, Ahmednagar refugee camp, Maharashtra, former British Indian Army soldier, unemployed, Punjabi refugee who had migrated to India from Pakistan during the partition. Gopal Godse, Pune, Maharashtra, brother of Nathuram Godse, storekeeper and merchant. It was about his assassin's accomplice and assassin. Gandhiji was influenced by. He had influence of many things, and prominent in that was influence of Gita, a religious book. Then influence of Buddhism and Jainism, influence of religious book Bible, Quran, influence of the writer John Ruskin, Henry David Thoreau, Leo Tolstoy, and influence of his own guru, political guru Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Political ideas of Gandhi. Religion and politics have close relation. According to Gandhiji, they are close together. It is not separate. Ends and means are close relationship. It means whatever ends you have means should be good. So it has a close relationship. Ends and means have close relationship. Then trusteeship theory of property. Gandhiji was opposed to free competition, free trade and capitalist economy. He was of the opinion that immediate abolition of capitalism would bring the whole economic order to a halt. He wanted to bring change in the mind of the people. So he was not in favor of forcibly taking away of property, but he was in favor of small industries. He wanted to reduce or abridge the gap between poor and rich. So he was basically in favor of trusteeship theory of property, that whatever we have is we are just the trustee of the future generations. Faith in nationalism. He was a nationalist. Then supporter of a representative democracy. The democracy where voters would decide the future of the country. Then opposition to the principle of majority. He wanted that the majority should take care of interest of minority and should not suppress or oppress minority. Limited functions of the state. He was in favor of giving limited functions to the state, minimum state interference in the life of individual. Then state is a means and not an end. According to whom, state was a means to achieve the happiness of the people. So state was means, not an ends. Then faith in non-violence. Gandhiji had faith in non-violence. Means the activities or whatever state had to achieve should achieve with non-violence. He was votary of ahimsa. He made it an integral part of his program. Faith in class cooperation. Gandhi doesn't believe in class struggle like Marx. He believed in class cooperation, and he wanted that the one class, rich and poor, all will cooperate with each other. But he couldn't realize this dream in his lifetime. He had given more emphasis to duties than rights. Gandhiji gives weight to the duties over the rights because he is of the view that the performance of duties is in itself makes the right available automatically. Reformatory punishment. Gandhiji was in favor of reformatory punishment. Means that punishment to be given to reform, not to punish. Efficient and cheap justice. Gandhiji wanted that the justice should be delivered as fast as possible and should be, along with quick justice, it should be, cheap also, economical also. His means to say that delayed justice is no justice or futile. No need of police and army. Gandhiji held the view that there would be no need of police and army in the ideal state. Support to fundamental rights. Gandhiji supported fundamental rights, and those fundamental rights are basically good for democratic states also. He supported right to form association, right to speech and express, right to equality, right to compulsory education, right to economic and social security. Opposed to machines. Gandhi was not in favor of machines, as per him, these machines were taking the place of the people. That will lead to social ills, several social ills. And then faith in internationalism. Gandhiji believed in internationalism. He stood for universal brotherhood. He was against any kind of discrimination, and he wanted that people of the world to cooperate with each other. Decentralization of power. Gandhiji was in favor of decentralization of power. He wanted to make villages little republics, small republics. Gandhi was in favor of panchayats, and to panchayats he wanted to entrust the whole affairs of the village. Economic decentralization. Gandhiji was also in favor of economic decentralization. He appreciated the idea of small-scale industries, cottage industries. He wanted people to be self-employed and start cottage industries. He was not in favor of big industries that would lead to centralization of wealth. He means to say. Against imperialism. Gandhi was against imperialism. Now, what is imperialism? Imperialism is that one state dominations over other, so he was against it. Criticism of Western civilization. Gandhiji criticized Western civilization. He sees or he saw Western civilization as a materialistic civilization, and that was lacking in spiritualism. So he was not in favor of Western civilization. Now let's do Gandhi's ideal state. Gandhi's ideal state, or ideal state of Mahatma Gandhi. In many ways, Gandhi's concept of ideal state exhibited anarchist outlook. In his words, the state represents violence in a concentration and organized form. The individual has a soul, but as the state is a soulless machine, it can never be weaned from violence. यानी कि वायलेंस से इसको अलग नहीं किया जा सकता, टू विच इट ओज इट्स वेरी एग्जिस्टेंस. वायलेंस की वजह से स्टेट एग्जिस्टेंस में आया. सो ही वॉज नॉट इन फेवर ऑफ violent state. Gandhiji's ideal state was non-violent state of enlightened anarchy. Enlightened anarchy वाला situation है, because Gandhiji was idealist, so he has given his own ideal state theory. Gandhiji's ideal state was non-violent state of enlightened anarchy where social life would remain self-regulated. ज़िंदगी खुद ही रेगुलेट की जाएगी. ऐसे स्टेट में लोग अपने आप को खुद रेगुलेट करेंगे. इन दैट स्टेट देयर इज़ नो रूलर, नो सब्जेक्ट, नो गवर्नमेंट एंड नो गवर्न. सब बराबर हैं. इसलिए इसको एनलाइटेंड एनर्की कहा गया. एनर्की क्या होता है? वो सिचुएशन जहाँ पे कोई रूल नहीं होता है, पर एनलाइटेंड इसलिए कि सभी को पता है कि दूसरे के लिए क्या अच्छा है और वो उसके लिए वैसा सोचेंगे और करेंगे. So it is perfect state consisting of enlightened persons, self-regulated, self-controlled, following the principles of non-violence. और ऐसे स्टेट में कौन सा प्रिंसिपल फॉलो किया जाएगा? नॉन-वायलेंस, यानी कि अहिंसा का. Characteristics of ideal state of Gandhiji. Enlightened anarchy. First characteristic is Gandhi's ideal state was a non-violent state of enlightened anarchy where social life would remain self-regulated. In that state, there is no ruler, no subject, no government, and no governed. It is perfect state consisting of enlightened persons, self-regulated and self-controlled, following the principle of non-violence. A role of manual work is another characteristic of the ideal state of Gandhiji. The ideal state of Gandhiji was to be governed by the principle of manual work. Every individual should take up manual work for rendering his or her service to the state and well-being of his fellow individuals inside the state. This will promote his service in the direction of welfare of the state. सबको मैनुअल काम करना पड़ेगा. वेलफेयर, दूसरों के वेलफेयर के लिए, लोगों के वेलफेयर के लिए, स्टेट के वेलफेयर के लिए. Then village as the unit of state. The ideal state of Gandhiji should consist of villages which are from units, which are basic units. Each village, a component part of state, should be a village consisting of non-violent satyagrahis. They would form the life breath of an ideal state and preserve and protect non-violence and truth in their entirety throughout the state. Decentralization of authority. In an ideal state, authority should be decentralized. Gandhi was against centralization, for it leads to absolutism. सेंट्रलाइजेशन किस चीज़ के लिए ले जाएगा? एब्सोल्यूटनेस की तरफ. यानी कि पावर जो होगी उसकी एब्सोल्यूट होगी, लाइक डिक्टेटर. Sorry. In centralization, in decentralizing authority, Gandhi gave scope to individual liberty. The state should guide the individuals by appealing to their morality. If state resorts to violence, अगर state violence करता है तो it will damage the enthusiasm, initiative, courage, creativeness and non-violent mind of individual. And as such, the state cannot prosper. इस तरह से state prosper नहीं कर पाएगा. So he was in favor of decentralization of authority. Selfless and Swadeshi. An individual in Gandhian state should be selfless. Selfless होता है जिसको जो selfish ना हो, उसको selfless कहते हैं जो दूसरे का सोचता हो. Selfless, he should not accumulate wealth, वो wealth इकट्ठा नहीं करेगा. Accumulation of bread and controlling labor will bring poverty to the state. Thus, in the villages, means of production should be commonly on. This on सब means of production को commonly on करेंगे. This should generate love among the people of locality, binding them in common tie of love. Swadeshi should be promoted because that is the characteristic feature of Gandhian idealist state. What is Swadeshi? That is the things made in your own country is Swadeshi. Spiritualized democracy. Gandhi envisaged that the principle of non-violence should be the basis of state. Gandhi wanted that there should be non-violence in the state, so he wanted a spiritual democracy. Naturally, a democracy that will emerge out of it will give vent to the majority of the opinion. ऐसे में majority of opinion को जगह मिलेगी. Here neither property nor status of or position but manual work should be the qualification of village republic. जो काम कर रहा है शारीरिक रूप से manually उसको वेटेज दी जाएगी. It will be a state devoid of corruption and hypocrisy. यहाँ पे corruption और hypocrisy नहीं होगी. In a simple statement, democracy will be spiritualized. आध्यात्मिक democracy होगी. State and people means an ends to relationship. To Gandhiji, state is not an end itself, it is rather a means to achieve an end, and it means to do greatest good of greatest number of the people. Neither force nor absolute sovereignty is the basis of state. Gandhi's ideal of welfare state is always ready to promote the condition of its subjects. यानी कि लोगों की happiness जो है वो end है और state is a means to achieve those happiness. Critic of Western democracy. He criticized Western democracy vehemently. He criticized the universal suffrage system of the election held in Western countries. The parliament is not stable to the change of ministry from time to time. Further, the prime minister is always concerned about his own interest and the interest of his party member of retaining his power, or retaining his power, in fact, not retiring. So Gandhi criticized it as such. Western democracy has no place in Gandhian welfare state, as he thought it. The system was basically self-motivated. They wanted to be in power always, so he criticized Western democracy. Varna system. Following the doctrine of Gita, Mahatma Gandhi told that the Varna system should form the basis of ideal state. As Varna is related to birth, every Varna should render its labor to the betterment of the state. That will result in non-possession and economic equality. This will bring complete social and economic equality. So Varna system he was in favor of, but I think Varna system has created chaos in Indian system, and people think themselves, some people, some Varna think themselves better than the other. That has created a nuisance in our country. So I don't think this system has done good to us. Importance of Dharma. Dharma is a novel aspect of Gandhi's ideal state. It is not a religion of particular sector or particular sector creed. Rather, it is moral and ethical code of conduct which preserve the culture of the nation. Further, it holds together the social order and brings harmony among the people, uplifting their potentialities. So, dharma is a novel concept, aspect of Gandhian state. So, here dharma is given. It is not a religion, keep in mind. It is to bring social order and harmony. That is dharma, as per Mahatma Gandhi. Role of police. Gandhiji prescribed for minimum intervention of police force in the activities of state. To him, crime is a disease and it must be cured. So he was in favor of reformative punishment. Accordingly, appeal to the conscience of the criminals will change their mind. Now the police atrocity, जुल्म पुलिस की नहीं चेंज करेगी माइंड क्रिमिनल्स की, बल्कि उसकी अपनी आत्मा, conscience. The state should be governed by the principle of ahimsa, where virtually there is no place of violence. This प्रकार he was not in favor of too much power to police. He was in favor of appealing to the conscience of the criminals to change his mind. Emphasis on duty and resorting to natural means. Gandhiji put emphasis on duty rather than rights. If one becomes cautious of his duties, the rights will automatically be taken due care by the state. Rights are nothing but opportunities for self-realization. It is the link of one's spiritual unity with others by serving them. The role of doctors and machines was to be ignored, and traditional method was to be adopted for curing the disease. So he was in favor of traditional methods, not the modern doctors, and he was also not in favor of machines. Basic education, now talk about. Gandhiji laid emphasis on basic education. By that he wanted to spread vocational education, vocational education in the nook and corner of the country. Vocational is related to the work, keep in mind, vocational education. Gandhi had realized that this will improve small scale industry, which in turn will bring a self-sufficient economy for every country. Thus, Gandhiji's concept of ideal state was based on non-violence and trust. A spiritualized democracy, emphasis on duties, considering state as a means to an ideal, were some of the factors which made Gandhiji's state distinct. Ideal sub-ideal state is talked about. So Gandhiji's concept of ideal state was based on non-violence, truth, ahimsa, spiritual democracy, emphasis on duties. So it made his state different. Gandhiji's quote is, "The ideally non-violent state will be an ordered anarchy." Non-violent state will be an ordered anarchy. वो एनर्किकल सिचुएशन जिसमें ऑर्डर होगा, यानी कि जिसमें अपने आप ही रूल होगा. Conclusion. The limited power of states. He wanted to give limited power to state. Minimum needs means all people's minimum needs will be fulfilled. He wanted democratic system, equal opportunity to all. He wanted secularism. He wanted secularism in his country, means people will choose his own religion. Faith in manual labor, decentralization of political and economic powers, education to all, enlightened anarchical state, justice system. Now let us talk about Gandhian methods and or Gandhiji's ways or Gandhian strategies. Gandhi's strategies mainly comprise with these 5 things: satyagraha, truth and honesty, non-violence, cooperation, peace and love. Satyagraha is policy of passive political resistance, especially that was advocated by Mahatma Gandhi against British rule in India. Now let us understand what is satyagraha. Satyagraha. Satyagraha शब्द सत्या प्लस आग्रह. सत्य means truth, agra means insistence or holding. So holding firmly to truth or truth force is a particular form of non-violence resistance or civil resistance. Someone who practices satyagraha is satyagrahi. He is known as satyagrahi. The term satyagraha was coined and developed by Mahatma Gandhi, who practiced satyagraha in Indian independent movement and also during his earlier struggles in South Africa for Indian rights. Satyagraha theory influenced Martin Luther King Jr. also and James Bevel's campaign during the civil rights movements in the United States, as well as Nelson Mandela's struggles against apartheid in South Africa and many other social justice and similar movements was based on satyagraha. The Gandhian strategy is a combination of truth, sacrifice, non-violence, selfless service, cooperation. According to Gandhi, one should be brave and not a coward. He should present his views, suggestions, and thoughts without being violent. One should fight a war with the weapons of truth and non-violence. Gandhi said that there is no God higher than truth. According to Gandhi's thoughts, non-violence is the ultimate solution of every kind of problem in the world. In the present scenario, satyagraha is more than a political tool of resistance. It is a holistic approach towards life based on the ideals of truth and moral courage. The similarities of satyagraha to some of the greatest philosophical and religious tenets of the world have been observed and much written about. Gandhi's system of satyagraha was based on non-violence, non-cooperation, truth, and honesty. Gandhi used non-violence in India's freedom struggle as main weapon, and India became independent from British rule. In present time, there are some live examples with which show the excess or success of non-violence resistance by using Gandhian strategies. Mahatma Gandhi was against any form of exploitations and injustice, according to whom evils must be opposed at any cost. But he insisted that the weapons must be non-violent and moral ones. The adoption of peaceful method made one superior and put the enemy at a disadvantage. But the condition is the opponent must be dealt with mutual respect and love. Gandhi believed that only through love an enemy could be permanently won. Principles of Satyagraha. Gandhi envisioned satyagraha as not only a tactic or tactics to be used in acute political struggle, but as a universal solvent for injustice and harm. He founded Sabarmati Ashram to teach satyagraha. He asked satyagrahis to follow the following principle. Yamas described in Yoga Sutra, that is non-violence, ahimsa, truth. This includes honesty but goes beyond. It means living fully in accord with and in devotion to that which is true, and not stealing, non-possessions, body labor or bread labor, control of desire, fearlessness, equal respect for all religion, and economic strategies as boycott imported goods. On another occasion, he listed that these rules as essential for every satyagrahi, that was, must have a living faith in God, must be leading a chaste life and be willing to die or lose all his possessions, must be habitual khadi weaver and spinner, and must abstain from alcohol and other intoxicants. Rules for Satyagraha. Gandhiji proposed a series of rules for Satyagraha to follow in a resistance campaign, that is, harbor no anger, किसी से गुस्सा नहीं रखना, suffer the anger of the opponent, दूसरे का गुस्सा बर्दाश्त करना यानी opponent का, never retaliate or assault, punishment, but to do not submit out of the fear, punishment, assault, or an order given in anger. Voluntary submit to arrest or confiscation of your own property. If you are a trustee of property, defend the property non-violently from confiscation with your life. Do not curse or swear. So rules. So do not insult the opponent. Neither salute nor insult the flag of your opponent or your opponent's leader. If anyone attempts to insult or assault your opponent, defend your opponent with your life. As a prisoner, behave courteously and obey prison regulations, except any that are contrary to self-respect. As a prisoner, do not ask for special favorable treatment. As a prisoner, do not fast in an attempt to gain conveniences whose deprivations does not involve any injury to your self-respect. Joyfully obey the order of the leaders of the civil disobedience action. So these were the main now the features of satyagraha. Birthright of everybody. Moral force basis of satyagraha. Method to change the opponent and appeal to heart and reason. Satyagraha and no violence opposed to one another. Self-suffering is an essential part of satyagraha. Social good is objective of satyagraha. Open dealing in satyagraha. Wider use of satyagraha. Satyagraha, a double-edged weapon. Kinds and method of satyagraha. Negotiation, non-cooperation. In non-cooperation we have strike, social boycott, picketing, civil disobedience, fasting, hunger strike, and hijrat, to move from. These are the kind of satyagraha. 5 kinds: negotiation, non-cooperation, civil disobedience, fasting, hunger, and hijrat. Hijrat is to shift from one place to another. That is extreme stage. Criticism of Gandhism. Personal view and critics to Gandhi. Mr. M.K. Gandhi was an excellent social activist, great inspirer, and great politician in human history. He fought against evil on untouchability, establishing secularism, self-government, and united India under single government. He is worthy to be praised, and I consider him a great hero, but as a human he has his own weaknesses too. First, criticism of Gandhi's ideology. Some of his ideas: non-violence, complete freedom, self-reliance, equality, are highly respected. But on the other hand, Gandhi's ideology is unjust. By analyzing his statement, I don't care if you are a good leader or not, unless you agree with me, I will not support you. So here it sees authoritarian ways. Example: Gandhi has a problem with C. Rajagopalacharya, Dr. Ambedkar, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose because they had different thinking than him. He opposes science and technology, deeming it to be satanic. वो उनको satanic मानते हैं, satanic. He was stuck to his ideology by refusing to give injection to her wife because he urged that injections are violent. Right? So Gandhi's criticism of Gandhi's action. Non-cooperation movement. Gandhi has always had ideas for destroying what he had planted. Due to Chora incident, he called off the movement, which led to the death of 6 people in police custody. 19 people were sentenced to death and 110 people were sentenced to life imprisonment. This kind of action is highly condemnable. Quit India movement. Gandhi started with good intention but eventually helped fuel to the partition. Many people support it, including the Communist Party of India, and Muslim leaders oppose it. And whole his life he preaches about non-violence. But here he make a mistake by pronouncing "do or die" slogan, which is totally against his own preaching. of non-violence, do or die, karo ya maro. Criticism of Gandhiji's inconsistency. Gandhi don't have consistency in his standard belief. He kept on changing. Gandhi opposed untouchability but supported caste system. He opposed imperialism in India, but in South Africa he said that the white race of South Africa should be the predomination race. See the collection of M.K. Gandhi, a Gandhian work that is, and he was preaching about non-violence, but involved in World War I. Gandhi agreed to recruit Indian soldiers not for logistic or for ambulance corps, but for combat also. Killing for independence is wrong, but killing for British is okay for him. So that's wrong. Conclusion: Gandhi is more idealistic, he is idealistic, lack of originality. He took ideas from different sources. Self-contradiction. There is fine self-contradiction in him. Satyagraha is not practical, fully practical actually. Religion and freedom are more practical. Machine could criticize unjustly. Theory of class cooperation is not complete truth. Gandhiji's trusteeship principle is not practical, and Latin anarchical state is a myth that can be achieved. Present state helps in the development of individual's personality. I am truly a great fan of Gandhi. When I studied his autobiography and about his Champaran protest under him, right, and his Swaraj, Quit India movement and Satyagraha, I regard him as the greatest politician of India and savior of Indian struggle for independence. We saw his picture in everyday life in our money as the father of the nation. He deserves our respect, no doubt, but we have to accept his mistakes too. He is a great leader indeed. So at the end I would say that Gandhi was truly great. We have to accept him with all his follies, with all his follies, right? And he truly deserved to be called the great leader, and he deserved to be given respect. No doubt why Subhash Chandra called him father of the nation, and Rabindranath Tagore called him the Mahatma for his all actions and achievement. He deserved to be called so. Thank you. Take care. God bless you.